So back in 2018, I was in Australia. I was in Australia from 2016 until 2018. So I was there for 2 years. I was in the city of Brisbane, right here on the east coast of Australia. Brisbane has a population of around 2.7 million people. So it's quite a big city. Anyway, here is where I began my trip to Asia. So I took a plane and we flew from Brisbane all the way over here to Bali. So we flew from Brisbane to Bali. Bali is an island in the country of Indonesia. So Indonesia has many islands, lots of islands, but I went to Bali. Bali is a very famous island. It is the most popular place to go in Indonesia for tourists. Bali is very well known. Yes, it is a well-known place. It's very well known. Quite a lot of people live in Bali. The population of Bali is around 4.4 million people. So there's a lot of people here. So I flew into Bali and we arrived in this city called Denpasar. So we arrived in Denpasar and I stayed on this beach here on the west coast of Bali. It's called Kuta Beach. And I was there for a few days. After that, I took a bus north. So I took a bus north. I got on the bus. I got on it. And then the bus drove north. It drove north to a place here called Ubud. It went here to Ubud, and this is another popular place for tourists to go. I met some people here and we got motorbikes. Yes, we got motorbikes and we drove around. We drove up to this mountain thing here. I don't remember exactly, but we drove to this mountain. And then eventually I came back to Denpasar after that. A few days later, I took a bus. This time the bus went to the east coast of the island, the east side. So the bus went to the east coast, and then I took a boat across the sea. So I took a boat from Bali to this other island here, which is called Lombok. So I took a boat from Bali to Lombok across the sea. I arrived in Mataram, which is a city in Lombok, and then I took another bus. So I can't remember really. I think it was a taxi. I think I got a taxi, and the taxi took me. Taxi picked me up from Mataram, and it took me down here to Kuta again, and it's another popular place for tourists on the south coast of the island of Lombok. I was there on the south coast for a few days. Then I traveled north, and here there are 3 islands. These are called the Gili Islands. They're actually quite well known as well. The Gili Islands are very popular for people who want to go diving. There's lots of good diving here. In fact, in Gili Air, this island on the far right here, this Gili Air island, this is the first time I tried diving, underwater diving. Actually, I didn't really like it. I didn't like doing it so much. So I only did that once. And then after that, I left Gili Air. I left. I came back south. I think I took a bus again. South here to this city called Mataram on the west coast of Lombok. There are quite a lot of people living in Mataram. The population is around 440,000. So there's quite a lot of people there. I took another boat. We sailed across the sea again. So we sailed across, and then I took another boat. I took another bus from the east coast of Bali back to Denpasar. So the bus drove back to Denpasar. After staying in Denpasar for a few more days, I got on another bus. This bus took me to the west side of the island. So I went to the west side instead. And then I took a boat which crossed here from Gilmanuk to this small place called Banyuwangi. Banyuwangi here on. So Banyuwangi is on the island of Java. So this big island here, this is called Java. And so Banyuwangi is just a small place on the east coast of Java. There is only around 117,000 people here in Banyuwangi. From here, I went to what was probably the best part of the trip. I went to this place called Mount Ijen. We arrived really early in the morning, so we arrived around 4 a.m. at the bottom of Mount Ijen, the mountain. We climbed up the mountain in the dark, so it was dark. And then when we got to the top of the mountain, it was sunrise when we were at the top. This was really cool. This was the best part of this trip, I think. After Mount Ijen, I believe I took a train. I think there was a train. So the train travels west. The train travels west from Banyuwangi over to this city, which is on the north coast of the island of Java. The name is Probolinggo. I don't know the correct pronunciation. The population of Probolinggo is around 246,000 people. There was not much to do here, but I took a trip to Mount Bromo here, Mount Bromo. Again, Mount Bromo was incredible. It was a great part of the trip. Mount Bromo was very good. After Mount Bromo, I took, I think, a train again. I think it was a train from Probolinggo to Surabaya. This is quite a big city in Indonesia. The population is a bit over 3 million people. But when I was there, I found that there was not much to do in Surabaya. After Surabaya, I took a very long train journey. I think it was around 7 hours from Surabaya to this place called Yogyakarta. The population of this city is around 375,000 people. And there are some really cool temples here in Yogyakarta. For example, there is the Borobudur. I don't know if this is the right pronunciation, but Borobudur or something. Borobudur Temple. And it's a famous place. Many tourists go to this temple. At this time, my visa for Indonesia had run out. The visa had run out. I only had 30 days in Indonesia. So then it was time to take a flight. I took a flight from Yogyakarta north to Singapore. I took a flight to Singapore. The population of Singapore is around 5.92 million people. It is a very small country, but it's a very rich country. So Singapore was very rich and very clean. Singapore is incredibly clean. It is the cleanest city you will ever go to. Perfectly clean. I was in Singapore for around 1 or 2 weeks, something like that. After Singapore, I took a bus north and we went all the way. Now we went into the country of Malaysia. So this is the third country on the trip. We went into Malaysia. The first stop was Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur is the capital city of Malaysia. The population is around 2 million people here in Kuala Lumpur. I was there for around a week, and the Malaysian food is very good. I got on a bus and the bus drove south to a small town on the west coast of Malaysia called Malacca. And after that, I got on another bus and the bus drove north to another city on the west coast of Malaysia called Penang. The population of Penang is around 794,000 people. Penang was cool, lots of nice food, Lots of cool things to see. After Penang, I traveled back south in a bus back to Kuala Lumpur, and finally I got on a plane and we flew to Vietnam. We flew to Vietnam. We flew to Ho Chi Minh City in the south of Vietnam. This is the first place I ever taught English. So it was 2018. It was 6 years ago from today. And this is the first time I taught English in a class. So I started teaching in a school, English school in Vietnam. After around 2 months, it was time to go home. So it was time for a very long flight back to the UK. I got on the plane and flew, first of all the way across Asia, across India, and we had a stopover here. So there was a stopover in Dubai. So we had a stopover first. So that the first part of the journey was 7 hours. From Vietnam to Dubai, that was 7 hours. And then there was the second part of the journey from Dubai, across the Middle East here, across Europe, and back to London. And from Dubai to London was around 6.5 hours, something like that. And that was the end of my trip to the area of the world I was in. Is called Southeast Asia. So this is, all these countries are in Southeast Asia. And this was a great trip. I enjoyed this trip a lot. A few months later, I actually returned to Vietnam to continue teaching English after that. Thank you for watching this video about my trip to Southeast Asia, and I will see you in the next one.